So the Pittsburgh Penguins currently sit in a wild card position in the Metro. So in honor of the Pittsburgh Penguins playing great hockey over the past like 2.5 weeks, they are rallying towards a playoff berth as they did miss it last season. Obviously, Sidney Crosby, probably a top 5 player by the end of his career, one of the greats of all time. So in honor of him and the team being not the greatest, really, I mean, I would not consider them a Stanley Cup contender, even if they do make the playoffs. What I'm going to be doing is every single season that Sidney Crosby loses, he will add one superstar to the roster of the Pittsburgh Penguins up until he actually ends up winning another Stanley Cup. Now, what classifies as a superstar? Anybody 90 overall and above. We are going to spin the wheel, whatever team we land on. I'm allowed to choose whoever I want from a 90 overall and higher. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Pittsburgh Penguins roster. So actually taking a look at the roster here, they do not have a good team whatsoever. I mean, they traded their second, third best player in Jake Guentzel at the deadline to Carolina. But we do have Sidney Crosby, Brian Rust, and Evgeny Malkin on the first line. This roster has Evgeny Malkin down at an 84 overall. Now, obviously, he's not the player he once was. He's 37 years old. We also have Michael Bunting, Lars Eller, Ricard Raquel is here, Drew O'Connor. Oh my God, this roster. This forward core really is not very good. They pull Yarvi on their fourth line, Jeff Carter. If we take a look defensively, Erik Karlsson is their best D-man and at 88 overall. He's not having the great season that he had last year. He has like 50 points, I believe, in 70-some games. Chris Letang's down at an 83. Ryan Graves is here. And in goal, I believe they still have Tristan Jarry, who's an 85 overall. So we have a lot of work to do in order to turn this Pittsburgh Penguins roster into a Stanley Cup contender. Our forward core is not great. Our D core isn't either. And goaltending is mid at best. So let's go ahead and simulate. And every single season that we do not win the Stanley Cup, we are going to be able to spin the wheel. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting much out of the Pens here in season number 1. I just want to simulate, see the stats, see everything like that. Obviously, we're going to use the wheel to build this roster into a Stanley Cup contender. Now, if you guys do enjoy videos just like this, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on notifications so don't miss a single live stream or video that I put out. Now, the Penguins are going to end up finishing second last in their division as they went 37, 37, and 8, good enough for 82 points. Obviously, missing the playoffs. Columbus, New York, the Rangers, and Carolina all made it in the Metro. For the entire NHL, Florida was the best team with 52 wins, followed by Dallas. Vegas was up there, Nashville, Winnipeg, and Vancouver. Pittsburgh was technically down here as one of the worst teams in the NHL, probably top 10, I'd say. So we are basically starting from the bottom and building up. Sidney Crosby is going to lead our team. Only 19 goals, but he had 70 assists for 89 points in 82 games. Malkin had 71 points and 34 goals, which I definitely was not expecting. Brian Rust had 66, Karlsson 63, Riley Smith had 52, who's a minus 11. Chris Letang had an okay season. He did have 20 goals, but only 25 apples is kind of low for a defenseman. And if we take a look at our goalie, Tristan Jarry, 32, 27, and 8. 4 shutouts and not really the greatest stats overall. Quinn Hughes is going to end up leading the entire NHL in scoring with 106 points, followed by Alexander Barkov. Cale Makar was up there. McKinnon and McDavid had 100-point seasons. Braden Point had a good year as well. On the goal side, Matthews is going to lead with 53, followed by Pastas, 52. Braden Point had 46, Kyle Connor 45, McDavid 41, and the Boston Bruins are going to end up going on and winning the Boston Bruins will go on and win the Stanley Cup, beating the Oilers in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. That would be an absolutely heartbreaking defeat if I had to witness that live. Quinn Hughes is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Matthews wins the Maurice Richard, the Norris also to Quinn Hughes, the Conn Smythe. I was going to say Calder, obviously went to Bedsy, the Conn Smythe to Pasta, the Vezina UC Saros, and the Selke Trophy is going to end up going to Connor McDavid, who is the best player in the NHL. All right, so here we are on the wheel. I'm going to spin it. Whatever team we land on, I'm going to be able to choose a 90-plus overall player from that roster. And the first team we're going to get is the Columbus Blue Jackets, who I don't believe have a 90 overall player, so I will just choose their best player. So for the first player that I will be adding to the Pittsburgh Penguins is none other than Zach Werenski, the highest overall on the Columbus Blue Jackets at an 87. We were not starting off with a great team. Columbus didn't have that many players that were that high of an overall, but I mean, an 87 D-man will definitely help out our D-core as we are not very good there. We now have Karlsson and Werenski as our top line. We also have Chris Letang, who's only an 83. So we do have a lot of work to do to this team. We might be here for many more seasons. Obviously, we didn't even make the playoffs last year, so we have a lot of ground to cover until we are a Stanley Cup contender. So at the end of the second season, Pittsburgh is going to have a slight improvement as we are now 5th in the Metro, going 40, 38, and 4. Good enough for 84 points, so only 2 extra points will Zach Werenski end up bringing us, and we're obviously not going to make the playoffs. If we take a look at the entire NHL, Vancouver was the best team at 53 wins, followed by Colorado, Boston, Detroit, and Florida. Again, Sidney Crosby is going to lead our team in scoring. He also had 30 goals, but 77 points. Erik Karlsson had 70, only 8 goals, though, which is kind of shocking. Brian Rust had 58, Malkin only 55, Riley Smith 48. If we take a look at our goalie, Tristan Jarry, 33, 29, and 3, 2 shutouts, and again, allowing 3 goals against per game is not going to get us a Stanley Cup. I know that for a fact. Nathan MacKinnon is going to lead the NHL in scoring with 109 points, followed by Matthew Tkachuk's 103. Mikko Rantanen had 102. Pettersson and David Pastrnak were both up there. Now for goals, Matthews is going to lead with 59, followed by Brock Besser's 54. Pasta had 50. Zach Hyman had 43. Maybe McDavid wasn't playing on his line for like half the season, so that's why he only scored 43 instead of 53. And somehow the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to go on and break their over 50-year curse of a Stanley Cup, or not having a Stanley Cup, as they swept the Oilers. Are you kidding me? First off, if the Oilers met Toronto in the finals, the Oilers would definitely win in 5. That is a fact. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl would absolutely put a beat down on Ilya Samsonov. But I guess in this universe, the Toronto Maple Leafs are the better team. And here we are back on the wheel, spinning it yet again. Hopefully we get a much better team than Columbus. And unfortunately, that is not going to happen, as we have got the Chicago Blackhawks, probably the worst team in the entire NHL. Alrighty, so the next player that I've added to Pittsburgh is, again, another defenseman in Seth Jones, as he was the highest rated player on the Chicago Blackhawks at an 86. They do not have a single 90 overall player on their team. Why would they? They absolutely suck. So technically, our D-core is getting slightly better. I mean, we've added 2 decent defenders, so hopefully we can at least maybe make the playoffs, sneak into a wild card spot, or we might suck yet again and have to spin the wheel. That is okay with me as well, as we are all building for a future here in Pittsburgh where we can raise the Stanley Cup yet again, at least for one more time before Sidney Crosby ends up retiring from the league. So yet again, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be not an awful hockey team, but not a great one either, as we went 36, 37, and 9, 81 points. We've been around the same for the... So the Pittsburgh Penguins yet again are very similar, as we went 36, 37, and 9, 81 points. 6th in the Metro. If we take a look at the entire NHL, Colorado's the best team with 58 wins, followed by Florida, Winnipeg, Dallas, Toronto, and Vancouver. Maybe one day we'll get up here, maybe not, who knows. It turns out Erik Karlsson's going to end up leading our team in scoring with 70 points. Yes, 70. Crosby only had 67, an absolutely terrible season for him. Also only 20 goals. Malkin had 62, Brian Rust 60, Riley Smith had 54. This team was pretty awful. Now, Tristan Jarry, he wasn't great either. Still allowing 3 goals against per game. We're definitely going to need an upgrade in goalie, so hopefully we can get that soon. Now, if we take a look at the entire NHL, Nathan MacKinnon again is going to lead this time with 119 points, followed by Matthews, who had 110, Rantanen 109, Pettersson was up there, McDavid and Marner. On the goal side, Austin Matthews is going to damn near be goal per game, as he scored 80 and 82, followed by MacKinnon, who had 48, Pastrnak 48, Bedard had 48 on the Blackhawks, as well as Brock Besser. And the Yzer plan has finally been finished, as the Detroit Red Wings go on and defeat Vancouver in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. There is 100% going to be a riot in Vancouver if they lose another Game 7 in the Finals. Nathan MacKinnon is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy. Matthews, the Maurice Richard. The Norris will go to Cale Makar. The Conn Smythe to Patty Kane, so he gets his 2nd of his career. Georgiev, the Vezina, and the Selke will go to Alexander Barkov. And we are back on the wheel again. Please, for the love of God, give me a better team, please. Okay, I can live with the Winnipeg Jets. I will gladly take that over Chicago and Columbus, the 2 teams I got before them. Now, for the next player that I've added to Pittsburgh, it's going to be none other than Connor Hellebuck, the goalie that's going to win the Vezina this season in real life. He's a 93 overall, which is a big improvement off of Tristan Jarry, who was only an 85. That should definitely help us out. So it looks like we're building more of a defensive team rather than offense, as our D-core has been upgraded and now our starting goalie is better than ever. Probably the best in the game, or tied for one of the best goalies. I mean, he is going to end up winning the Vezina Trophy this season. Overall, goalies have been mid lately, but he's having a hell of a year. Finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins have a big improvement, as we are now the best team in the Metro, going 51, 25, and 6, 108 points. That's almost a 30-point difference from last season. If we take a look at the entire NHL, Winnipeg somehow, after losing their starting goalie, is going to finish as the best team winning the President's Trophy, 56 wins. The Edmonton Oilers had 52. Pittsburgh obviously was up there. The Rangers, Hurricanes, and Panthers. Now, offensively, we're still not really the greatest in the NHL. Crosby's going to lead us, 23 goals, 77 points. Evgeny Malkin had 68, Carlson 66, Rickard Rakell 61, Lars Eller 52. But it is defensively where we really thrive. Connor Hellebuck is going to finish 37, 23, and 3, 4 shutouts, pretty decent stats. I mean, the goals against is a little bit high. Save percentage, I'd like to be at like a 920. Nikita Kucherov's going to light up the NHL, scoring 120 points, leading all skaters, followed by McKinnon's 114. Matthews had 108, McDavid 104, Braden Point 104. On the goal side, obviously Matthews is going to dominate, 68 on the season, followed by Pasta, who had 59. Jason Robertson had 50, Kucherov 48, Kyle Connor 45, Bedard had 44 himself. Hellebuck would not end up being the best goalie. Oh my god, Laurent Brossoit is going to lead. Laurent Brossoit is going to lead all goalies in wins with 47. Are you kidding me? An 84 overall goaltender as well. And in the first round of the playoffs, we are up against the Boston Bruins, who I believe the last time Pittsburgh played them, they got swept by them. I think it was the conference finals way back in like 2013, maybe. Regardless, it was a very long time ago. Unfortunately, the Bruins would end up beating us in 5 games pretty dominantly, as well as the New York Rangers will go on and win the Stanley Cup. Vancouver, back-to-back Game 7 finals losses. That city is literally being torn apart right now. Now, obviously, we didn't have much of a playoff run. Crosby only had 1 goal and 3 points in 5 games. Pedersen had 3, Jones 2. Not really much of offensive production in the playoffs, at least. Nate Dogg is going to take home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy. The Art Ross to Kucherov and Maurice Richard to Matthews. The Norris will actually go to Charlie McAvoy, which you really don't see that often in this game. Artemi Panarin is going to win the Conn Smythe. Jake Ottinger the Vezina, and the Selke will go back to Connor McDavid. Please, for the love of God, give me a good team that has a good superstar player that I can choose from here. And the wheel is literally going to give me the Arizona Coyotes. Out of all teams, the team that's literally about to be relocated in the summer. I mean, looking at it now, I cannot be too upset with adding an 88 overall Clayton Keller to the roster. The dude had, I believe, 90 points last season, 86, also 37 goals. I really don't know how he's doing this season, but he's going to sim pretty okay. He'll be on the first line with Sidney Crosby and Brian Rust, so our forward core has slightly improved, maybe just a little bit, as we did make the playoffs for the first time last season. Hopefully we can build off of that, maybe even go on a deep playoff run here. Pittsburgh is going to have a slight regression as we end up finishing 3rd in the Metro, going 44, 29, and 9, 97 points on the season, which, I mean, we still made the playoffs. Boston is going to be the best team, winning 50 games, followed by the Winnipeg Jets. Detroit was good, Florida, and the Oilers. Sid the Kid Crosby is still going to lead our team, 30 goals and 79 points, followed by Clayton Keller, who had 73, Carlson 62, Malkin had 55, Brian Rust was up there, Chris Letang had an okay year, I guess. If we take a look at Connor Hellebuck, 32, 24, and 8, 4 shutouts, which is a lot. Also pretty decent numbers, a 908 save percentage, 289 GAA. Kucherov again is going to lead everybody in points with 113, followed by Nylander, who had 109, Braden Point had 107, and McDavid 105. Also shutout Jesper Bratt, who had 102 points. On the goal side, Matthews again, he's probably going to win it every single season, honestly. He's the best goal scorer in the league. He had 61, followed by Pasta's 50, Robertson at 49, Bedard 47, and Kucherov, who had 44. Also, Josh Norris had a 44-goal season. Obviously, injuries this year has kind of plagued his season. Overall, Ottawa has been a very disappointing team. And in round number 1, we have the team that we traded Jake Gensel to in the Carolina Hurricanes. This should be a very fun and interesting matchup. Hopefully, we do not get dominated like we did with Boston. And again, and yet again, in 5 games, we got dominated by the Carolina Hurricanes. It was Boston last year, Carolina this season, as the LA Kings go on and win the Stanley Cup, beating Florida in 7 games in the Stanley Cup Finals. Again, if we take a look at the playoffs here, I'm not expecting expecting our players to do too well. I mean, Clayton Keller showed up, 4 goals, 6 points in 5 games. Crosby had 5 points, Eller 3, Chris Letang 3, Carlson 3. Connor McDavid is going to end up winning the Ted Lindsay and Hart Trophy, the Art Ross to Kucherov, Maurice Richard to Matthews, and the Norris to Cale Makar. Trevor Moore is going to win the Conn Smythe. I've never seen that before. Igor Shesterkin, the Vezina, and the Selke will go back to McDavid. I still honestly cannot get over seeing Trevor Moore, of all players, win the Conn Smythe. No disrespect. All right, I am officially done playing around. It is time to add an absolute superstar of a forward to the roster, and oh my god, no. Oh my god, we got the Calgary Flames of all teams. I mean, star forwards are not really... star forwards and Calgary Flames do not mix. Now, looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins roster, the next player that I've added is none other than Mackenzie Weegar, an 86 overall D-man. So right now, defensively, we are kind of stacked. I wouldn't say we're the best in the league, but we do have a very good overall D-core. Obviously, Hellebuck's going to save us in the net. Offensively, we're not the greatest, really getting carried by Crosby and Keller at the moment, but hopefully we can add more, as I don't think we're going to have enough to win a Stanley Cup here. I could be wrong. I would be pleasantly surprised if I am wrong. Now, Pittsburgh is back up to being the best team in the Metro as we went 49, 25, and 8, 106 points, finishing at the top of our division. For the entire NHL, we were top 5 in the league, which is very good. Dallas, Tampa Bay, Edmonton, and Colorado were all better than us, though. Sid the Kid Crosby is going to have a great season, 28 goals, 89 points, followed by Keller, who had a 30-goal season, also 75 points. Erik Karlsson at 67, Brian Rust 58, Malkin 52, and Lars Eller 51. Malkin overall has been very quiet this video, but he is only 84, and he's 37 years of age, so I can't really expect too much out of Gino at this point in his career. Hellebuck is going to go 35, 23, and 6, 3 shutouts, and really not the greatest stats in the world. He could be a lot better, especially for a 93 overall goaltender. I don't know why they simulate so poor in this game. No goalie, though, sims as badly as Pekka Pasta does in Be a Pro. I sim like a straight-up terrible goaltender. Like I'm a 60 overall when really I'm a 96. I will honestly never get over that. EA Sports, you have ruined my Be a Pro experience as a goaltender. Again, Kucherov is going to lead the entire NHL, not only in goals with 58, but points with 118. Followed by Braden Point, who had 116. McKinnon had 108. Kyle Connor was up there. Hughes had a great season as a D-man. On the goals side, Kyle Connor had 56, passed to 50. Nobody else. Matthews only scored 46, which is a down season for him, I guess. Rantanen had 43, Bedard 42. And in the first round, we have Austin Matthews and the Toronto Maple Leafs, so that should be an easy Game 7 victory. Unfortunately, the Rangers are going to end up beating us in Game 7 of round number 2. At least we won a playoff series. We actually swept the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is hilarious. So we are going to lose a heartbreaking Game 7 defeat to the Rangers in the second round. We absolutely dominated Toronto, swept them in round number 1, but it was not enough, as the Dallas Stars will go on and win the Stanley Cup, defeating Florida in Game 7. Why is every Stanley Cup final matchup in Game 7? Every single one of them has gone to 7 games. Now, in the playoffs, Crosby is going to have a pretty good playoff run. 4 goals, 13 points. Malkin had 12. Riley Smith had 6 goals and 12 points. And Mackenzie Weegar was pretty productive himself, 11 points. Only 1 goal, though. But he is a defenseman at the end of the day. Kucherov is going to end up taking home all the awards. The Norris will go to Cale Makar. The Conn Smythe to Jason Robertson. Nikita Kucherov is going to take home all the awards. The Norris will go to Cale Makar. The Conn Smythe to Robo. The Vezina to Philip Gustafsson. And the Selke Trophy is going to go back to Alexander Barkov. I'm not going to lie. I have had absolutely horrible luck with the wheel here. And we are going to be... Oh my god, Boston, please. Give me Boston, please. Thank you. Finally, we get a decent team that I can choose from. The Boston Bruins, I believe, are like top 3 in the NHL at the moment. Now, obviously, the next player that I've added to the roster is going to be David Pastrnak, a former 60-goal scorer, a 94 overall. He's the highest overall on our team. He's going to be alongside Crosby and Keller on that first line. So offensively, we got a huge bump in production. Hopefully, we can be that much of a better team coming into the season, as we are making the playoffs pretty consistently, but we have not made a deep playoff run just yet. So moving along here, the Pittsburgh Penguins Penguins again are going to be safely in a playoff spot. Second in the Metro, going 47, 26, and 9, 103 points. Second best in our division and top 6 in the entire NHL. Behind the Rangers, Toronto, Edmonton, Tampa Bay, and Vancouver, who still have yet to win a Stanley Cup but have lost 2 Stanley Cup Finals matchups in Game 7. Their city is literally falling and crumbling as we speak. Sidney Crosby is undoubtedly going to have his best season of the video so far, 26 goals and 109 points. Followed by David Pastrnak, who had a 56-goal season, also 100 points himself. Followed by David Pastrnak, who had 56 goals and 100 points. Keller had 85, Carlson 58, Evgeny Malkin was up there. So offensively, we now have 2 100-point scorers, when at least like a few years ago, we had nobody over 70 points. Hellebuyck's going to go 40, 20, and 5, 3 shutouts, and probably his best stats so far as a Pittsburgh Penguin. Crosby is going to lead everybody in scoring with 109 points, followed by Nikita Kucherov. Braden Point had a good season, Pastrnak, and Pettersson. Now for goals, Pasta is going to lead with 56, followed by Matthews, who had 54. Bedard had 52, and Nikita Kucherov had 45. So this could be maybe our best shot at a Stanley Cup so far. In the first round, we do have the Devils, who overall don't have the best roster. I mean, at least healthy. When they're healthy, they're a lot better. I mean, every team is better when they're healthy, but still, let's see if we can go on and have a deep playoff run for pretty much the first time in the video. And finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins have made the Stanley Cup Finals, and funny enough, we're up against the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, we did steal their starting goalie in Connor Hellebuyck, so I guess there's a little bit of a history there. Let's see if Crosby can finally go on and win another Stanley Cup and win his 4th of his NHL career. And finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to get it done. Sidney Crosby again is a Stanley Cup champion. After 7 long years, we had to add 6 players to the roster. In order for this to work. But ultimately, we did get the job done here in Pittsburgh. I mean, finally, Crosby and Malkin, also Letang, get another Stanley Cup, the 4th of their careers, as they go down as Pittsburgh legends. They were already legends before that. Erik Karlsson's going to end up winning the Conn Smythe, 3 goals and 19 points for the defenseman that they picked up over the offseason. So I guess that pickup really did work out in the end, as there it is, the Stanley Cup about to be raised. We beat the Winnipeg Jets in 4 games. We swept their asses. They were not even really that competitive. And here comes our captain, Sid the Kid Crosby, a top 5 NHL player. I'd probably put him at 5 or 6 really of all time, lifting the Stanley Cup for the 4th time in his career, as he yet again is a Stanley Cup champion and an absolute legend of the game of hockey. Now for the playoffs, obviously Karlsson is going to lead our team in scoring. He also won the Conn Smythe. David Pastrnak had 8 goals and 18 points. Crosby was okay, I guess, only 16 points in 23 games. Michael Bunting had 10 goals somehow. Sidney Crosby is going to take home the Ted Lindsay, Art Ross, and Hart Trophy, while the Maurice Richard will go to David Pastrnak, the Norris to Cale Makar, the Conn Smythe to EK65. Thatcher Demko is going to win the Vezina, and Connor McDavid the Selke Trophy. And that is going to do it for this video, boys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave some support on it. We have gone ahead and won Sidney Crosby one final Stanley Cup before he retired, as he's going to go down as a top 5 NHL player. I mean, it took a lot of players to add to the roster. We had to add 6, I believe it was. I mean, David Pastrnak was our biggest addition by far. Hellebuyck was pretty good too. I mean, his simulation stats weren't the best, but he is technically a 93 overall. Regardless, we got the job done. Pittsburgh has another Stanley Cup to their franchise's history. Let me know in the comments what player I should do next with this trend. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, don't be silly. Wrap your willy.